All right, everyone. We are here with Mr. Reese Johnson from Southern Kentucky. Sir, how we doing, man?
Well, not too bad.
Good, good. And then if you're watching too, we got Mr. Taylor. I'm gonna butcher your last name. I want to say Haynert. Is that right?
It's Honert.
Honert.
Yep.
Honert. So Taylor Honert is a pro staff member and big buck slayer here in Central Ohio. Sir, how you doing today, man?
Good, man. Good.
Boys, thanks for joining us here. Reese, before we get too far into this, man, let's go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of what you got going on down there, buddy.
Yeah, so Reese Johnson from right out of Paducah, Kentucky, way on the western half. Full-time real estate broker, licensed in Tennessee and Kentucky. Um, Degree in ag business, lifelong hunter. My dad manages National Wildlife Refuge, which is what got me started into all this. Went to Mississippi State as a wildlife biology master's from the deer lab and all that good fun stuff. So yeah, come by it honest, a little bit of a head start, and that's pretty much all we do.
Pretty much hunting. And I know you're a big baseball guy too, right? Did I catch
Yep,
that? Yep.
yep. Played 4 years college, and I mean, I was good enough for that, but I really wasn't that good.
It's all good. It's all good. It's better than my little league in high school. So, well, okay, Taylor. So we got you here, man. Like, how did you guys ended up meeting you and Reese?
Uh, Basically just through social media, sharing posts over the years, liking each other's posts, I think, and then finally following each other, and then
Yep.
just talking back and forth, and then eventually talking about shed hunting,
Yeah.
and then sharing pictures, like trail camera pictures and stuff. And then I was just like, another guy I talked to, Winston, which I know Reese is real good buddies with as well. Was talking through with him a bunch too. And just between the two of them, I'm like, man, I got to get down to Kentucky and meet these guys at some
Oh,
point,
sure,
you
sure.
know. So then, yeah, Reese was like, well, come down and shed hunt or something, and then maybe we can do some hunting or something, have him up. I'll go down there or something
Yeah.
like that. So a couple years ago, Buddy and I went down there and actually shed hunted some public with Reese. We didn't do too bad. I can't remember how many we ended up picking, 10 or 12 or something that day.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Wasn't a bad day.
No, it was kind of perfect conditions the first day, and then the next day it was just supposed to like thunderstorm all day. So we kind of ended the trip a little shorter than we wanted to. But yeah, so then it just we just kept in contact, and yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
been
this year I'm going to play that Ohio card.
Are you? Nice. Yeah. Well,
Probably maybe it's in the works, but I
okay.
didn't draw Kansas. I didn't draw Kansas. I didn't draw Iowa, so I am
There you go.
still deciding.
Just keep on right down the ag belt there, man. Come right over to Ohio. I know Mr. Taylor over here has got some spots for us.
Oh
Maybe.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm planning on having him up. Um, I think he's talking like the first week of November, sometime around then. So work some things out and see what's going on.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did pick up a new lease this year, so that should help with
Oh,
more
for sure.
ground.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the plan.
Well, the four of us for sure definitely need to get together and get on something. I mean, I don't care if we even kill or anything, but at least hang out, get some content made up, and all that good stuff for sure. So, well, Reese, let's dive into what you got going on down there. So, I know you're heavy into real estate, primarily land, but I know you do probably sell some homes too. Or I may be way off on that, but
no, I do.
okay, cool. So,
Yeah, I sell a little bit of everything. I even do some commercial.
okay, perfect. So, how does that? I mean, obviously, as a hunter, I know you've said this before in other podcasts and stuff too. But for people that are just maybe finding out about you, I mean, I would imagine that being a real estate agent and being an active hunter is probably something that's pretty convenient. So, kind of how does that work into some of your strategies?
Yeah, it's pretty freaking awesome most of the time.
There you go.
I mean, if I get asked all the time, and I bet if I had $1 for every time I had this question, is just how do I do what you do, or how do I become a real estate agent, or all you do is every hunt. But one of it, some of it's just you can post deer pictures when you're working too. It's not like you're
Oh
out
yeah,
there every time. Everybody assumes that you're just out there all the time, which granted I do get a little bit more freedom than everybody else, but um, I mean it's a commission only job. You
yeah.
don't get paid unless are selling, unless you're good at it, and it's highly competitive, and there's a lot of people out there doing it. Everybody under the sun has a real estate license right now.
Yeah.
And, there's more, it's strong. There's a lot of business going on. So everybody's getting their license, joining. and a lot of them, those first 2 years, the stat that I always give folks is 80% of real estate, 80% of people who get a real estate license do not make it through the first 2 years.
Dang,
It's like
that's
you just
wild.
don't, because it's commission only. And if you're the first year I did this, I made $15,000. The second year I made 30, and that's gross.
Yeah,
And so it's not a lot of people can survive those first 2 years, and getting that under your belt to where you're established, people trust you, you have the reputation, and you know what you're doing. So, at that point in time, I was still working another job, and then I was eventually able to build up my business where I could make that leap and go full time and not have to worry about it. And then that's when things really get fun.
oh, for sure, for sure. How at this point, how long have you been into it by yourself, just solely doing that?
Uh, I went out on the third year. I went out by myself,
Okay,
and this is year 6.
okay,
And I have closed 27 or 28 units year to date, and it's July, so I'm on pace for my best year, which I think most agents would tell you that.
yeah, with the
Because it's
market,
just, yeah, if you're any good or you're doing anything, you ought to beat that. You have your best year this year or last year one. But it's still crazy. It's gotten hot and things have slowed down here in the last couple of weeks. But
yep,
somebody rang the dinner bell in February, and from February 1st through July 4th, it was just chaos all day, every day.
that's awesome. And I know Taylor, we had kind of talked about it before we got started here, but I know you're typically running quite a bit of cameras, and we'll kind of get into more of the camera stuff too. But kind of as the industry and as the market has been really booming right now for people, has that I guess hurt or enabled you to enable's the wrong word, but like
Affected.
yeah,
It's
affected
affected
you.
your time, I think, right? Because we've been talking about that. Just you've been so
Yeah,
busy.
I shed hunted and turkey hunted and mowed, habitat work, whatever. It's the least amount of freedom slash fun that I've had since I started doing this. Which part of it is because I've really pushed myself this year to do more business, and it's with the uncertainty of what's going to happen in the
Yeah,
future. I really wanted to try to capitalize on that, take advantage of that, and then be ready going into the next few years. With my business, depending on whichever direction things go or whatever I may choose to do with my business personally. So I've been really pushing hard this year, trying to get. Um, and that's the beauty of it is if I really want to if things slow down, you know I can let. I'm so used to it, and I think a lot of people would resonate with this. I'm so used to being broke my whole life that if I go if it things slow down and I choose not to be out there hustling, then I can just go back to hunting and living the way I've been living and be comfortable.
yeah,
This is odd to me that things are good, things are going so well, and so I want to take advantage of that and do the right things. I've got a couple investment properties, and we flipped our first farm this year, and finally got a nice truck, and so things are going well,
yeah,
and I've been trying to capitalize on all that. But it's been crazy, and a lot of it was just when I got out of college. I mean, I had a real job, quote unquote, a W-2 job for 6 months, and got laid off from there. And then next thing, and it was real estate from then on. And it was just
yeah,
something I'd always thought about doing. I'd always sit it when I was a kid. I remember just looking at farms online, just like which one, how am I ever going to have my own piece of ground?
yeah.
And that's what started this.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So if I guess yeah, and you're right there too. Like the market's been really good right now. So setting yourself up in the future. I mean, the bottom's going to fall out of it at some point, and you don't want to be to a point where you're just like willy nilly spending and blowing all this extra earned income and not having a backup plan because at any day that market could crash and the people aren't going to be wanting to buy or the properties are going to be worth a lot less and obviously the less you sell them for the less you're getting back to, so it's like you definitely gotta prepare for
Well,
that.
and then another stat that I'll give you. These are the two stats. I already said the one, but the other ones, the top 20% of agents do 80% of the business.
Yeah,
So basically, if you're not in that top 20%, if you're not the consistent ones that have been doing it for years, who are good at it or have the reputation, the connections, and are respected in this field, then those are the ones that are getting the business. Whether that business is 100 million because it's a good market, or it's 25 million
sure,
and it's a down year in total sales, and that's just random numbers. We're in a relatively small area. Our MLS is 16 counties, and Western Kentucky prices overall are much cheaper,
yeah,
really, than a lot of other places out there. So to really make some good money, you got to sell them.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're not. Yeah, as I say, when the land value isn't quite as much as some places. I mean, my brother lives on the East Coast, and a double wide or something out there would probably go for $250,000 versus in Ohio you can get one for like 30. You know what I mean? So I mean those are just random numbers too, but yeah, you definitely got to hustle to keep it up. So going into like the real estate stuff and selling the land and working with clients, how much of your business do you think is just trying to sell like hunting properties or like I'm not hunting is one thing, but just like recreational properties in general, and then kind of how do you as like a hunter yourself like have that conversation with that client?
Sure. Well, it's about 50-50 at this point.
Okay.
I was more land when I first started, and then these houses went crazy.
Yeah.
And then I started, getting into it, and I was posting about it, saying this, that, and the other. Well, then, the friends I went to high school with started getting married. They're, buying their first house, moving to their second house, things like that started happening. It's like, hey, and I'm not turning anybody away. So that progressed and built up. And the next thing you know, with the houses being as quick as they are, I'm selling as many houses as I am farms. And the thing about farms is 5 years ago, when I first started in 2016, 2017, there was a lot more inventory on recreational pieces. Whereas now the only inventory is priced through the roof, because they can, or they're trying to see what they can get. There's not, you're not seeing, so recreational ground for me has slowed down in that way because the only people that are selling are asking top dollar.
Yeah.
Or if they want to sell, all you got to do is whisper in the wind to the man at the gas station, and everybody will know down the street, and then there'll be 3 people knocking on your door trying to buy it.
Oh, for sure.
So it has slowed down a little bit, but right now we're kind of at that turn, and I'm waiting to see what's going to happen. Things have slowed down a little bit, and I'll be curious to see where we're at in a year.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a seller's market for sure. I mean, we were just looking at properties yesterday. So like I mentioned to you before we got recording, we recorded with Emily Shad yesterday, and she sells real estate here in Southern Ohio, and so Ben and I were kind of doing our homework a little bit before we talked to her. I mean, you couldn't find a piece of property for under $150,000.
Yeah,
and it's like 5 years ago that probably would have been worth 75.
It could be
half.
It could be an empty lot.
Yeah,
doesn't even have to have woods on it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, there was a 5-acre parcel that I saw in like Lancaster. Literally, it was just, it was a little bit of ag, so you could make a little earned income from that, but it was like $70,000 for like a 5-acre little strip, and it had no recreational use at all.
I mean, I will say that's one thing too. I think like Reese and I have had a comment too, because I pay attention to a lot of that stuff and flipped houses over the years and looked at land, and that's something that we've been able to connect on too. So we talk about that stuff a lot.
Yeah.
Land here, land down there, what's going on, like and I've pricked his brain on stuff too.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of cool too.
Well, and the dream of every guy that hunts is to have his own farm. Something you can manage, something decent. You don't need a 500 acres, but something decent enough that you can keep and retain nice deer.
I think you sold yours, didn't you, Reese? That one you just purchased?
Yep. Yeah, we held it for 2 years and then sold it this spring, and then that was the money I was able to turn around and use to buy my truck.
Oh, sure.
My new to me truck.
I was gonna say let's not lie. You still got the Toyota running around now. Come on.
Oh yeah. At Tacoma, we're at 293 now. So.
There you go.
Every light on the dash is on.
That's awesome.
No 4-wheel drive.
You can't kill a Tacoma, man.
We're nowhere near stopping.
I had a buddy in high school that had a Tacoma that was like I don't know. I'm sure you've watched Back to the Future, right? Yeah. All right, so you think of that old Tacoma that he's got in that Back to the Future. I had a buddy that had one, but dude, it was completely rusted through. Yep. And we put a flatbed on that thing and just ran the freaking wheels off of it. And I was like, you can't kill those things, man. So,
dude, my uncle worked in the oil fields forever, and he drove like that same model Toyota. Yeah. Had 400,000 miles when he quit.
That's awesome.
Those things are tanks, man.
That's awesome.
The new truck though is pretty cool because you got like it's a Dodge, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of a unicorn. It's a 05 25 Dodge Ram 2500. It's got the 5.9 Cummins in it.
Yep.
And when I bought it, it had 76,000 miles on it.
That's awesome.
Which it's got right at 80 now. It's basically it's a one owner, garage kept.
But then you got that bed camper for it, right? Because you bought it.
Yeah.
Basically for hunting, like a hunting rig, right?
That was one reason that really sold it. It's like, I don't really necessarily need a diesel for the things that I can do.
Sure.
Don't mind me. It wouldn't hurt my feelings to have it. But, the folks I bought it from, they had a Palomino backpack camper where you back up, you take the
Oh
tailgate
yeah.
off and
Yep.
you back up under it and then you drop it down with the jacks and set it on there. So now I've got the truck. See, last year when I went to Kansas, I rented a vehicle because I've been running around in Tacoma since high school, investing in real estate, not vehicles.
Yep.
So I didn't have a trustworthy vehicle, so I rented a Expedition, and then I slept in it for 7 days until I killed my deer, and that was what that's what it took. So, but now I've got this. I get the backpack camper, which is perfect for me and maybe
Yeah.
somebody if they end going with me, but I can go wherever and have a place to stay because lodging is your most expensive unless
Oh,
you're
for sure.
camping and I don't mind camping, but I don't like camping when it's 5 degrees out
No.
in
No.
November.
No. Heck no. Heck no. Yeah, my wife and I, we went a couple years ago. I mean, I guess it's been 3 now, to Arizona, and we drove the entire state, and the most expensive thing was buying a hotel. Because we weren't camping. She was pregnant with our son at the time, and so it's like we're not camping, and she's not into that stuff anyway. And so, like, buying a hotel, you're going to go hunt a property. Let's say, we had talked about going to Wyoming. I ended up not getting the draw, but going and staying in an Airbnb, well, shit, that's half the cost of the trip. You know what I mean? You're taxed $350. Well, you're spending $200 a night at a hotel, and it's like next thing you know, you got a $1,500 trip just in lodging. So having something like that, man, and staying in your own spot, that definitely makes a big difference for sure. So if I'm someone that's like looking to buy a property, I mean, we all kind of know the answer here because we're all hunters, but like, what's the main thing if I'm looking for some recreational farm for hunting? What's the main thing that you're trying to tell people, or the main thing that you're looking for, as talking to a client?
Well, for most guys like us, the number one thing is you got to understand financing.
Yep.
You got to understand how that works. And I didn't have a clue going into it. Nobody taught me. I had to learn the hard way. And it's just like, why does nobody teach us this? And I get these calls every day. All they say, okay, you need to go talk to a bank. You need to talk to 3 banks. You need to talk to 5 banks. Or if you don't have a rich uncle, then you need to go figure out how. And even if you did, you still might want to finance with some of the rates that have been going around. I know they're going up, but
Yeah.
I mean, there are incentives to finance in some situations.
Sure.
And so that's the number one thing is I would start there. And then the other thing is you got to look, and this is what, if I'm buying, and I'm looking for things that nobody's looking at, small pieces, that diamonds in the rough that I can see making something else. And I know some folks, who are doing well and don't have the time. They're looking for a turnkey farm. That's fine. those exist. But for most, the average folks, you need to find that property that you can select cut, that you can go in there and add those trails, do those food plots, do all those things, and and get for a better price.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And then how much of that are you looking at for like tillable land too?
It's tough to come by. I mean, it's anything with tillable, the farmers, that and the farmers and the investment, you're competing so much more with other people that unless you can find an off-market deal, most of what I have bought / come across has just been wooded next to kind of thing. Now, if you can get a mixture, but when you get that mixture, that's what a lot of folks want. So you're competing a little more seriously when you're looking at those type of properties.
For sure.
So I'm more looking at it from a deal aspect rather than I need tillable. If it has tillable, I would love to have it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But I'm more about the numbers. What can I do with this? What is my goal? Is this a 1-year flip? Is this a 30-year hold? What is the long-term plan? Can I, find some sort of source of income?
Yep.
Whether it's solar, mineral, leasing the hunting rights. Maybe I'm not even the one to hunt it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great advice. That's great.
Well, and you said earlier too, like you can make the tillable if you want to log it out.
Yeah.
And I know Jordan and I talked about that the other day. I'm a firm believer. I'm sure you would agree, Reese. Like you just said, everyone overlooks those small pieces. I mean, there's nothing wrong with buying a 5-acre, 10-acre chunk, the right 5. Because I know we've talked in the years past. This was a few years ago. Like Reese said, I would rather buy or hunt the right 5 than try to just own the wrong 500.
Yeah.
Like, everyone has that kind of misconception. They want to have 1,000 acres. Like, that'd be great, but it's not a need.
Oh, yeah, no. And I think a lot of that kind of probably stems into some of the unrealistic expectations that TV shows put on people. Not everyone's going to have a 500-acre parcel in the heart of Unit 5 in Iowa, southern Iowa. It's just not feasible. So, like Reese said, trying to find those. Maybe it's a 30-acre plot that has a corner that's butted up against some public land, or maybe it's it's just completely hardwoods. Go in there, select cut. You're gonna have great area for turkey, maybe. You just you just gotta kind of find the deal and try to find something that makes it work. So
it's all about the numbers. I mean, it's the numbers have to work, and then a lot of times those are your stepping stones. So, you know, and then I've used this analogy a lot is if somebody said, here, I'm going to give you $200,000, go find me the best hunting farm you can. You know, I would say if it's at all possible, buy 3 farms with that $200,000, a 10, a 20, and a 5, because let's say you buy 130 or 150 with that 200, and you have bad neighbors, or you missed the mark and you misread the property. Well, you're stuck. You have one deer herd to work with. Where if you have 3 pieces, you have 3 deer herds in 3 separate locations, and you know, odds are one of those you could eventually sell for. You know, most likely somebody's going to build a house or a different potential. You know, you've got different options, and so and also financially, if you get in a bind and you do need to sell for any given reason, you're not stuck selling one big farm. You've got pick one of the 3.
And Reese has told me that over the years as well, because I've always been talking to him about buying property and stuff, and he said that to me multiple times. Why buy 100 when you could maybe buy 3? And then, like he said, you might be able to lease one out, like he said earlier, completely. That might be paying for that one and another one.
That pays for the taxes or pays for the yearly payment or monthly payment or whatever you got for it, for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like, you know, you can only kill as big of a deer as you have, so to speak. You know, you can't just go somewhere and expect to kill a 200-inch deer if there's not a 200-inch deer living there. And like Reese is saying, if you have one herd to work with and your biggest deer there is a 120-inch deer, I mean, that's all you have. So I think a lot of people get that misconception too. I mean, we all are not as lucky as Huff and just walk in the woods and
shoot something monster. Or what'd you say, Moby Dick? No, I mean, I echo the same thing. You know, I have, my house is in the middle of the country. I got just a hair under 5 acres, and I have, what would you say my little kill plot is? Maybe
it's like
10,000 feet.
Yeah.
I mean, at 10,000 square feet. I mean, but it's just enough. And, you know, and you've seen the pictures.
Yeah, you're still getting bucks showing up and does. I mean,
it's just getting ready to put that time in it and make it that honey hole that they feel secure in and they feel not pressured by. I mean, like Reese said, too, like, worst case scenario, if you get 3 out of 100 and you get in a bind, well, it's more inclined for somebody like myself to buy a 5-acre parcel to put my house on, you know? It's a more affordable option, so.
Right.
Well, brother, let's get out of the continental U.S. here. I know you got some really exciting stuff that you're working towards here in the great state up north, the last frontier. Let's give us the rundown on your trip that you're getting ready to plan for Alaska, and kind of start the process of when you decided that was something that you wanted to do up until where you are right now, brother.
Well, let's see. I'm going to Alaska August 10th is the day I fly out.
Okay, so it's real soon.
Yeah, so I'll be there on my 30th birthday. So that was my getaway with spending all this money excuse was that I'll be there on my 30th birthday. And so, I got bit by the bug watching Billy Mole's YouTube videos. I don't know if you've ever heard of Billy. I love his stuff. It's very for real. And of course, I would give anything to go shoot a doll sheep. A doll sheep is like my bucket list dream item, but those things are like 40 or 50 grand, and that's ridiculous. Yeah. So started looking into like what can I afford, and caribou is what I'm going for in the North Brooks. Okay. And I found a outfitter that I think's fairly reputable. They won 130 out of 130 2 years ago on success rates, and I've heard nothing but good things from everybody. All the reviews I've read so far. All in all, should be able to do the trip for between 10 and 12. And, I booked it 2 years out. So basically that's everything out the door. So the outfitter was 45. So like I said, I just been making monthly payments on a hunt for 2 years.
Yep.
And then, I had a shuttle service to get us from the base camp to the hotel and the airport there in Fairbanks. And so it's been logistically, and right now, so we got the logistics worked out. The airplane tickets were $1,000, tags $1,000. So it's where you can make those payments. Yeah. If you really, really plan it out. So like I said, that's kind of been my mantra, and I started planning on that when I got bit by the Alaska bug watching YouTube videos on hot summer days, and so basically the way I have coined it is it's the poor man's Alaska trip, because it is it is the cheapest one you're going to find. You can't do moose. You might could do black bear for that money, but
Yeah.
moose is higher, obviously. Doll sheep, grizzly bear, brown bear, whatever.
Yep.
They're all going to be more. So, and I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I've never been
Yeah.
on an excursion like this. They're going to drop us off for 5 days and then pick us back up in 5 days. So, this was kind of like the initial step to Alaska, see if I'm cut out for it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely a different planet. I mean, when you're used to just going out and hunting and then driving home at night, staying 5 days with absolutely no human interaction except for the people at your camp is a little bit different. So, and it's with the caribou. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. I mean, they're freaking beautiful creatures. So, chasing them that's going to be a blast, man. Hopefully you can smack a big one.
Well, if you go spend that kind of money, it's one of those things. I'm taking a rifle. I mean, like, you're going that far, you spend that money, I'm going to shoot something.
Oh yeah.
That was kind of like, you obviously with the caribou, you have much higher success rate, obviously, than other chances than a lot of other critters. So that kind of played into it a little bit. It's like, if you're going to go, it may be once in a lifetime. Hopefully it's not. But if it is, then you got something for it, have something to show.
Awesome. For sure. And I know you had told me this before too, but you just said it there. I make hunting payments. I don't make truck payments.
Yep.
That ties back to the Toyota thing. And so, before we get into that though, because I kind of think it's important for people to realize that these kind of trips are a lot more affordable than what you are. You just have to make some life changes and make some sacrifices in other aspects of your life. But before we get too far into that, I wanted to kind of go through your gear list, like kind of give us a rundown on what you're planning. I know you did like a layout picture, I think, the other day, if I'm not mistaken. So kind of give us a little rundown of what you're taking with you.
Still working on it, honestly. I've got it. I'm actually out here in my office right now, and I've got everything scattered out on the floor that is going to make the cut, making the cut. But no, I've just got my plan is I've got a horn hunter pack and a Kafari pack. Those are the two things I'm taking.
Okay.
I borrowed a gun case. I've got a 300 Win Mags, what I'm going to shoot. 168 grain Hornady, or no, they're Barnes. They're the TSX.
Okay.
So I'm shooting those. Those are hand loads. So I've got my mountain houses. So I've kind of got my basics, my trekking poles, my first aid, water. I'm still working through. I've got one of the Grail little compressing.
Yep.
I've got one of those, and then some tablets too, and a couple of the platypuses. But I really need a drip. I know the guy I'm going with, Anthony's got a little better water purification set up. But we should be camped near a lake. That's pretty well the way they do it. So they put you near a lake almost every time. I've got the Alaska, the Guide Series bino harness with some loopholes I picked up that are, I got them on sale. They were 10 by 52s. I like those, but with the outfitter, they give you a camp rental. So like their tent, their cots, their sleeping pads, their pots, their pans. So you don't have to pack all that stuff.
That's awesome.
So it's just a lot easier when you have to travel. I mean, I've taken 5 different airplanes to get there. So with all that being said, you don't have to worry about getting all those things there. They're already at base camp, and you're just going to use their stuff. So basically, I'm taking what I need, which is going to be my nat gear, all across the board, thermals.
Yep.
I did pick up some Wiggy waders. I got to get a new set of Crocs.
You got to have your camp Crocs, brother. You probably.
That's right. My regular Crocs that are on my feet, the tread's running low, and I want a new pair before I go.
Are you sponsored by Crocs yet? I'm just curious.
I ought to be, but I'm not. I keep as much money as I give them.
There's really nothing better, dude. Once I switched to Crocs during around COVID because I was been working from home and stuff, dude. It's I would imagine. I don't know what it feels like to be a woman and not running around with a bra, but I know my wife really enjoys it when she's at home. I feel like Crocs are just as freeing as a man. They really are, man. They're the greatest thing.
I mean, I know Reese normally shed hunts in his lacrosses, but I think I've definitely seen him in his Crocs for sure.
Oh man, those are the greatest. No, that's a good rundown, man. Thanks for sharing with that.
I'm not too much of a gear guy per se, so I will definitely leave some things out I wish I had when I got there. But I'm not as meticulous as I'm more of a big picture kind of guy. But so we'll see. It's gonna be an interesting experience, and I'm obviously very excited.
The one thing I think I didn't hear you say, but you might be looking into too. Are you looking at any type of insect repellent or any type of I know the mosquitoes can be bad up there, almost insufferable. You got anything up that to take care of those?
Got a couple of head nets just in case, and then I'm gonna pack my Thermacell. Right now, I'm still trying to figure out with TSA, you got the little
Oh,
butane
yep.
bottles. I'm
Yep.
flying. I'm still trying to work through what I can and can't take with that,
Yeah.
and whether I can carry those containers. But I would love to have my thermostat with me.
Oh man, I bought a thermocell was it spring? Dude, that's a life changer.
Yeah.
We carry the clip-ons. You can just clip it to your bag.
Yeah, I've had one for a few years. It's definitely a difference early season.
Oh, dude, Ben and I, every time we film something right now, like
I'm
just
like
last,
candy, mosquito
Yeah,
candy.
he's like
they
candy,
freaking
yeah.
hit me.
It's too sweet.
we just filmed a tethered thing for him. What was it, this week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, man,
Yeah,
He's like, we gotta go. Like, let's wrap this thing up, man. Like, I'm getting ate up alive. I got like 16 different bites on my neck, and then we shot that archery event last week, an archery hike.
Yep.
And
It was like rainy and
wet,
hot.
and we were in that moist. Yeah, it was really like humid.
I still got annihilated by them.
Yeah. So, yeah, I hate those damn things.
Yep. It'd be nice to have one for sure when you're going to Alaska, a place like that where the mosquitoes are bad. It'd be nice to have a thermocell if you can make it happen.
What's the weather up there like that
this
time,
one,
Reese?
I'm expecting 40s to 60s most of the time. It's going to be rainy, nasty, probably foggy.
Yeah.
So hopefully we don't see. I really don't want to get into any frost or snow because I won't have the gear packed for it. I'll pack a few layers, but that is something I'm a little bit worried about. So I'm hoping to not be cold.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that would definitely ruin it.
And I don't want to be. I'm not enjoying this 100-degree weather we're having, but 60 would be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
no
cold
doubt.
or wet, you're just miserable.
Yeah.
Any hunting that you're doing, it doesn't matter. I mean,
Yeah.
I think some of that's like the most important thing,
Oh,
especially like footwear. I don't know what you're running up there or what you're planning on, but
I'm be hard pressed to leave behind my lacrosse uninsulated green
Yep.
knee boots.
Grange-
but
the
I will.
Granges are-
yeah, the Grange. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably going to end up leaving them behind just for the sake of weight.
Sometimes it's so hard to make that decision whether you want to run gaiters or you just want to wear knee highs, because normally it's like 90% I'm running for my lacrosses, but then at the same time, sometimes I throw my Danners on and just throw a gaiter on.
Well, especially if you're hunting at home, like it's easy just to throw those Granges on. You know what I mean? And you talked me into buying them this year.
Oh, they're so comfortable.
Oh, dude, I turkey hunted with them this year.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was a really hot season. And we found this stream. I'm just like, you know what? They're uninsulated. I'm just going to stand in the stream, dude. It was like air conditioned on your feet.
Oh, yeah.
It's clutch.
Yeah, when I'm down there in Kentucky turkey hunting over the last 3-4 years, that's pretty much my primary thing. I mean, they're amazing.
Yeah.
Comfortable, light.
Not sure.
I mean,
Yep.
Shout out lacrosse. I know Andrew, he's got some connections. Our pro staff, he's got some connections to lacrosse, and we've been talking with those guys. So, Andrew, if you're listening, man, you know what to do.
yeah, I know Reese is wearing sweatpants and Granges and shed season, running around, or athletic shorts. I've never seen someone shed hunt in athletic shorts.
That's awesome. He's got some sports in him. He's got some sports in him.
No, I wear shorts, and I love that. That's like when I run in cameras and whatnot. I mean, it's either it's one of two things. You got shorts and Crocs or shorts and knee boots.
This is my guy, man. This is my guy.
Yep.
You know the picture I sent you guys yesterday when we put out that mineral. I mean, I got my Nike gym shorts on. Mm-hmm. I would have had my Granges on, but I didn't have like high socks, and my ankle socks always get stuck down there in the bottom.
Yeah.
But I'm like, hey man, just running. That's life. I wish I could be like my son and run a pair of like Dino rubber boots, and they need to make some adult size like dinosaur boots for them. Well, man, let's get out of Alaska. Let's come back here to the States. I know you really like to travel out of state and hunt different states for whitetail. I mean, that's king for all of us sitting here probably. So let's kind of get into some of your strategy and plan. I know you said you didn't draw for Kansas and Iowa this year, so potentially we'll all get together here in Ohio. But kind of run us through like your process each year, kind of what you're looking at and kind of how you like to hunt.
So Kentucky is it's $1. You get it and it runs from September to January. So however you get it.
Yep.
So trying to make the most of that. Basically, I have decided that, and with the family and the kids being gone, trying to set my schedule, it's like first week of September I'm going to be gone every year, and the first week of November I'm going to be gone every year. Now it may vary a little bit. Alaska is a couple weeks early, and that's just part of it. But basically 2 trips a year. They're spread out enough. I don't really do anything much big during turkey season. So I try to go out west once a year and then do a Midwest hunt for whitetail once a year in November. Yeah. So I'm done, Last year was Wyoming and Kansas. I shot one in Wyoming, didn't find it. Of course, that was a mule deer. And then I shot one in Kansas on public day 6. That was a freaking blast. I loved Kansas.
Yeah.
The year before was, let's see, we did Nebraska and Iowa. Passed on a deer in Iowa that, I'd like to have now, but
You
if
made
I'd
me
have shot
sick.
him, if I'd have shot him, I wouldn't known what Iowa really had for me. Basically, there was less deer there than in that particular piece of public I was hunting in that zone. There was less mature deer on what I had access to on public than I hoped for. You don't wait 5 years to go up there and shoot the first 140 you see.
Yeah, that's true.
I was gonna say, I think that deer was like mid 150s or something, wasn't it? Because he just sent me a Snapchat. He's hanging in the tree, and this buck walks by like 8 yards, and he's just taking a Snapchat video, and he sends it to me. I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
first morning, First morning, I didn't want to go to Iowa and tag out our first morning.
yeah. That's
know?
that's the hard part of that, man. You go to those destination states like that, and it's like, but I know that there's bigger, but this is probably the biggest. A 150, 160 class deer would be.
Well,
like,
you're on public land. On top of that, and it's a DIY, and you waited 5 years to draw that.
That's the thing. 5 years, man.
And who knows, the very
5
next
years and $1,000,
Yeah.
in that tag. So it's like I'd shoot that deer at home. I was there for something else.
No, I
It
feel
didn't happen. It didn't happen, and that's okay. I'm not mad at my decision.
The famous myth of 200 behind every tree.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's rough. So, out of those states that you go up to, what's your favorite one so far? What's your favorite state? I mean, I know Iowa's a mecca, but Kansas is getting right there.
Well, I enjoyed Kansas way more than I did enjoy Iowa.
Did you?
mean, Iowa was fun. Don't get me wrong. What was fun about Iowa is the deer on public acted like deer, like real deer, like on the farm. They didn't act like the deer on public do here
Okay.
or in Illinois or everywhere else where there's just people running them up.
Yeah.
So that was the cool part about Iowa. Those deer acted like deer. But Kansas was a challenge. I really wanted to shoot one on the ground, whitetail adrenaline style. That's my absolute. Those dudes are my absolute favorite. You can see the whole collection sitting right here behind me.
Oh yeah.
But those dudes are my absolute favorite. So that was really my goal, and I had one opportunity I found a bedded deer and some CRP, and I was going to put a stalk on him. And as soon as I saw the deer, saw the rack, drove over the hill to park, and as soon as I did, there was already 2 guys there from Oklahoma with a camera in one hand and a bow in the other, and they beat me there by about 5 minutes.
Oh.
So they stalked him, and I went on. So every other deer that I saw out that I could have stalked was on private. But I bounced around those units. I drew, and I kept coming back. I found this really good pinch point funnel, and I kept going and trying other pieces and checking out other stuff, and then I ended up coming back there and setting in the afternoon. And on day 6 that morning, I ended up shooting one. He was a 5-year-old. He didn't score stellar, but I was super tickled. A lot of good math, but he was a 5-year-old. So mature deer, and I'd actually seen that deer a couple days prior. Big frame, but man, he didn't know. He basically broke every ton off.
That's awesome.
But I'm super proud of that, and I had a blast out there. I shot one in Oklahoma 3 years ago. That was on the ground. Very much enjoyed that. Of course, that was on private, so it was a little bit different.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I haven't made up my mind what I'm going to do next year for September. I mean, I've just been a lot of people friends, I don't think they understand the importance of buying points and building.
Yeah.
Like I heard just this week, I was listening to a podcast, and they said was in fault, and somebody else didn't draw Iowa with 5 points. I mean, that point creep is getting real.
Yeah.
And that's for all states. Like you may only get to, like for guys like us to hunt elk, we may only get to go 1 or 2 times in our lives and have a real opportunity at successfully killing. So if you're not stacking points, so I've got Utah, Wyoming, Montana, Colorado, Arizona. I'm buying those, and I get other people around me. I don't want to spend the money. I don't want to do that. Well, I'll just go over the counter. Well, the days of over the counter are coming to an end before long.
Yeah. Well, and your opportunity is going to be so much less too, because you're going to get thrown up. I mean, we had a pro staffer, Alan. Did you meet Alan? Alan, I mean, he connected in Colorado mule deer over the counter. No, that was point. That was a point draw.
Yeah,
No,
it was.
point draw. But
mule deer.
Yep. His elk tag, I think he got over the counter, and he didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like you get a unit that's like super hard, or the herd population is just not there.
Mm-hmm.
But also those over the counter states obviously tend to get hunted a little bit more heavily because the opportunity's there. I mean, just like me going to Kentucky, now every year pretty much. We started turkey hunting, and now I'm going down there to deer hunt. Like, I'll be going back down there here in a month.
Yeah.
It's just it's close state.
It's close state. Yeah.
And it's over the counter.
Yep.
I mean,
well, and it's got that allure of having the shed or the velvet buck too, So
that's the goal.
Yeah. And we can get into that a little bit too, because that's one thing I think, and I'm glad you said that. There's definitely, I mean, I've been starting to put in for Wyoming, having conversations with you guys and seeing videos and talking with guys like John Eberhart and stuff who, are going to Kansas and going to Iowa every year. I'm like, when you look at buying points, I feel like a lot of people kind of overlook that middle part of the country, and they when they think about like buying points or doing like a quote unquote destination hunt, it's always elk,
right?
Or it's always mule deer. I mean, there's a lot of cool opportunity in like Montana for whitetail. I mean, Emily said it the other day. Some of the biggest deer she's seen are in eastern Montana or South Dakota.
Oh yeah, and some of the podcasts I've listened to, like with Mark Drury on there or Stan Potts or something like that's one of their like go to every year. They're going there for a potential velvet.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, and if you think about those states, you think about think Nebraska. Like my mind automatically Nebraska kind of goes to like sandhills, mule deer. But in reality, the eastern side of the state is probably just as good for whitetail as anything else, or even the western side, really, for that matter. And so, yeah, I'm glad you said that, man. Like buying the points. If you had to, let's say if you had to pick, if you're a whitetail guy and you had to pick, what would be like the 5 states that you'd want to put a lot of emphasis in?
Well, you gotta pay attention to Kansas and Iowa. They're the only 2 draws.
Yeah.
I mean, and those obviously have the bets. So you have to pay attention to those. Yep. And when they draw, I get to talk to people all the time. They're like, well, when can I buy my pointer? I want to put it in. Well, you missed it. It was in April, or it's in May. And if you're not paying attention, it's going to get by you quick,
Yep.
Right. So since I didn't draw those 2 this year, that leaves me with, what's around here, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, which are still on my potential list for this year. But we know they're over the counter. So we know that, there's nothing really to worry about there. South Dakota's actually a draw. Wyoming's a draw. Colorado's a draw, which these are all mule deer too. North Dakota's, I think, the only other true over-the-counter state besides Nebraska and Missouri. Don't forget Missouri.
Yeah.
I've had I got a buddy Alex there. We swap hunts every year. He's in a lease here, and then we trade back and forth. I go stay at his house, and I did shoot a good deer over there a couple years back. And Missouri. Don't forget that.
Oh yeah, that's where the Grant Woods, that growing deer TV. That's where they're out of. Is
Missouri has great deer.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Drury's hunt down there a lot.
Yep.
A lot of other people.
That's awesome. Yeah, so definitely stay in touch. That's one thing I'm definitely putting more emphasis in. I know I'm not going to, I mean, it's going to be a long-term thing, but this year, like I told you guys, I'm definitely be looking in Iowa. I'm definitely going to be looking at Kansas. And, like you said, even like Illinois and others. I mean, Illinois, what you said was you said Illinois is over the counter though, right?
Yeah, basically, it used to not be what the tags would sell out, but now once at CWD, they have the tags, so now they never sell out very much. So even though it is a limited, it's basically you 99% of the times to get tags, if I understand that correctly.
Okay.
I mean, some of them states too are $2, so that's something like you can take
about.
into consideration too, depending on where you're wanting to go. Like he was saying, Kentucky's $1, or like Ohio's $1. So, but you look at the price.
Missouri's $2.
Right.
Yeah, Missouri's $2, Illinois $2. I don't know about Indiana.
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 It's $1.
Those are all on my. And I like to look it up. I mean, I would throw Wisconsin in the mix if it was closer, and eventually I'll make it a point to get up there just to see it, just to do it. I'd like to try.
Yeah.
I'd like to try a lot of these states and just see what's different. But
sure.
I had a blast in Kansas last year, so and I went by myself. I don't care.
Yeah.
If you can't, and that's the other thing is, finding a good hunt partner and somebody that cares and pays attention to these things. It's like if I said, hey, you want to go to Wyoming, but I've got 5 elk points in Wyoming and nobody else has any points. It's like, well, we're not hunting the same elk. I hate to break it to you, and I just don't know how. So if you don't pay attention, you don't, and that's why planning these trips are so hard.
Yeah.
Finding somebody that has the time, money, and desire, and then has years of built up points to draw a unit.
Yeah.
Well, and it's more expensive too if you're doing it on your own. Because I know I said something to you about Kansas too, and I just don't, I don't have enough points or anything, so we couldn't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I mean, I have 3 mule deer points right now. I'll have 4. I know the preference points just opened up. I got the email I think last night actually for Wyoming.
In Wyoming.
Yep. So And then, of course, I didn't draw my goat tag this year. I had 3 on it and kind of shot my shot on unit like 68 or 69 there west of Casper and missed out. And, of course, the population just didn't back having a lot of other people come in. So I'll have 4 or 5 on speed goat, and then after I buy it, 4 on mule deer in Wyoming, and then start racking them up in other states. I really wish. I mean, a lot of people. I mean, Reese probably is not gonna like this because he doesn't live here, but for us, I think it would be really cool too if we got into this draw. Like,
oh no, they should. I mean, because that's one thing that makes Iowa, and everybody knows that. It's the DNR and the way that they regulate everything. I mean, even Kentucky, it's the same way. I mean, Kentucky has a lot of deer. They have big deer. Yeah, and it's over the counter.
If we moved our rifle season out of the rut, and Andor went to slug muzzleloader and or draw, we would be competing with Iowa and Kansas.
Oh, for sure.
Ohio could too. Indiana and Illinois could too.
Yeah.
It's all about the way they do it, and it's a lot of it's lobbying and being pushed to be open. Which the only thing that saves Kentucky is it's a $1 state. That's it.
Yeah.
If it was $2, we would basically be Tennessee.
Oh, dude, yeah, 100%. I'm glad you said that because Adrian.
Just take a shot at Tennessee there.
Yeah, you got to. You got to. We had Adrian Wilson on a few episodes back, and he had it's a $2 state right now, and he killed some 2 really nice deer, but he's like, yeah, we used to have 3. And I'm like,
I don't understand. It's the same thing with turkeys. Like, go down to Alabama. I think Alabama's like 4, isn't it, Reese?
Well, they actually just lowered it.
I know, but before. I meant before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, used to you could shoot 5 or 6.
I think. Like, why?
Back in the good old days.
Yeah, what do you need that for, though?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a cool conversation that we had, too, with Mike Tonkovich. He's the deer program administrator up here in Ohio. And he's like, you got to balance conflict versus opportunity. Like, opportunity and conflict, right? Like, 20 deer to a farmer that's getting destroyed is too many deer. But 20 deer to this person, to a hunter, is not enough deer. And so, those are just numbers. But, like, you got to kind of balance out ultimately, at the end of the day, they work for hunters. They're there for hunters. Cool. But you got to kind of balance out the ag side of it, which, is huge for us. And how do you balance out the western side of Ohio that's literally just nothing but ag field? Maybe some draws and some fingers versus the southeast that has, like, no ag and is mainly just hill land and high country, or, mountain country.
I mean, a lot of information I've heard, too, is a lot of it's insurance driven, too, because of accidents.
It is.
I mean, you got to look at paved roads. I mean, you look at Iowa versus Ohio, for instance. Yep. I mean, a lot of gravel roads, a lot of back roads. I mean, don't get me wrong, we have those here, but our miles of paved roads here are 10 times probably what it is in Iowa.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's kind of the Ohio and Kentucky in this area is kind of like the hub, if you will. That's why a lot of these companies like FedEx and DHL and Amazon. That's why all these companies are here, because it's kind of that hub it's the gate to the Midwest, and so there's a lot of traffic.
Major interstate.
Exactly.
Yeah, it changes everything. I mean, Kansas. I mean, with you just being out there, I mean that's sand roads, gravel roads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dirt.
I was really worried about that expedition. That was like an $80,000 car that I rented and then beat up on the back roads of Kansas.
Did you get the
sand and blood everywhere?
You got the insurance policy on it?
No, I don't remember I'm sure I spent extra. I was not happy the way it all went down because they promised me they'd have a 4-wheel drive. They didn't. Then they had to upgrade me, but then they gave me a discount. It was. You know how it is. It's always something.
Oh, for sure.
But anyways, yeah, I was worried. So I spent just as long vacuuming and cleaning that thing out before I took it back because I didn't, and no issues. but it was dirty. Gosh, it was dirty.
Now, did you drive out there? You said you rented one. Did you drive out there, or did you fly out to Kansas?
No, I drove. I went to Wyoming last year, and I went to Kansas, and I drove myself both times by myself.
Okay.
Wyoming was 18, and Kansas was 14, 12.
Okay, so
you
rented it there at home, and then drove it out.
Well, no. Actually, what I do on these trips is I usually go to Alex's house, which is near Kansas City.
Okay.
And then I rent one there because it's a little closer. I trust my vehicle to get me that far, and I can stop, overstay the night, and bust up my drive.
Okay, yeah, that definitely makes sense for sure. A little halfway point. Well, there's the out-state hunts for you. I want to get into. We can't talk to you without talking about trail cameras, right? I mean, this is the trail camera god on Instagram. So,
Trail Camera Tuesday creator.
Yes.
Hashtag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I feel like there's a little bit of debate in there. I think I may have heard you talk about it too. I think somebody brought it up, like going back through I think they went back through like the
Tags.
hashtag tag.
Really?
I don't even know, was it Exodus or somebody?
Yeah,
They
it's
went
probably
through.
Jake. Because
Yeah.
you got to go back. If you want the true truth, you have to go to Twitter and then find it and then go back to
There
the
you go.
original.
Yeah.
That's where it's going to be. Whoever, and I don't know what day and how long it would take you to scroll up through all those, but
A lot.
it's going to be close. But no, that is one of my claim to fame. And if I'm not the creator, I'm the promoter, or whatever you want to say.
Founding father.
What's up? But no, trail cams, and it's always been, I don't know, since 2008. I mean, that's when my first records on my computer. I've got 50 gigabytes of deer pictures here on this computer. And the first records of deer go back to 2008.
Nice.
When we just that's me and my dad, and we just had a handful of cameras. And, I used to do all kinds of research and read reviews and read battery reviews and keep up with them. And now the technology has come along so far that a lot of these cameras are really good for the money. And they're all honestly very, very similar, truthfully, as it's come on. There are some distinguishing features, and you kind of, whatever your preference is. But very much enjoy it. I think last year we had close to 150 in the woods, scattered out over 3 or 4 states.
How many of those are sell?
About a dozen.
A dozen.
I was gonna say you kind of just tapped into sell. Like, what was that, last year or year before?
Yeah, last year was the first year for me, and then those dozen are mine. I've got a couple buddies that are in the mix that have 5 or 6 or 10 of them, but they helped me a little bit. I didn't capitalize based off of any of the cell camera information last year.
Yeah.
It made me mad more than it helped me, unfortunately. Because it tell me basically the days I wasn't there was the days that they were there.
It's always the thing, right?
So besides that, but they are enjoyable, and I kind of tested out 2 or 3 different brands, and then I'm ended up mostly running Titacams right now.
There you go.
Pretty much where I'll probably be for most of the year, but we shall see.
Yeah, I just picked up the Reveal 2.0 yesterday, so I'm excited to get that guy out. I've had Moultrie cell cams in the past, whether it's the X, is it like 6000 XX?
I don't know much about Moultrie. I thought they had the Deltas or something.
The Deltas,
it's the Deltas.
The Delta's what I got now. Yeah. I mean, the software is okay. I've maybe it's just where I'm at. I always have.
If you want to buy my Deltas. If you want to buy my Deltas, you can have.
He almost said you could have them.
Yeah, you can just have them.
A really good deal.
I mean, for the price, they're not bad. They're really not bad cameras. I mean, but I just have, maybe it's just where I'm at too. I just have bad luck with stuff.
But like Reese said, they're all so comparable. But I mean, for me, it has definitely changed like the way I hunt for sure. I mean, I still run regular cameras, but I do run a lot of cell cams. But, I mean, it depends on the style that you're doing. Yeah. I mean, I know Reese is hunting a lot of public ground, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of both. I keep my regular cameras on private and my cells on public. And a lot of it's, you get one deer tag, so I'm chasing one buck tag. I'm chasing one buck, essentially. Yeah. There might be 2 on my list, and if one, I say that, there'll be 2 or 3 on my list. If one shows up on cell cam, then I might move in and hunt that day. But I'm pretty geared towards usually just one deer that I have history with, and that's really that chess match is what that's where trail cameras make it so much more interesting, and you can follow that deer, you got sheds to that deer, where he was and the historical data. That's what's really fun with trail cameras.
No, for sure, and that was the exciting thing. I remember I sent you that picture. I this year, with the work and stuff, we've just been everything. You're behind. I mean, we're all behind on getting stuff out, and I put that cell cam out, and like the very next night or 2 nights later, the buck that I had last year, the first week of season, or the week prior to the season start, that Saturday he was out in daylight at like 4:30, and I'm like, dude, yes. Of course, never saw him again. Again, I'm hunting that 5 acres, and then
that was one behind the house.
Yeah, behind the house. I mean, and Reese, this is probably 150 yards behind my house. It's like it's my wife can yell at me from the back porch, and I'll hear to come in or whatever, and so. And then I sent you that picture. Mm-hmm. He came back. We're pretty sure it's him.
Yeah, it's definitely the same deer.
It's definitely the same deer. I'm just like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and so that's where having that. It's like I don't have to, especially with the kids and stuff. And if I could have 100 cell cameras, I would.
Yeah, but when you can walk out back, I mean, that makes a big difference. I know Reese got some really
Yep.
cool that turkey. I don't know if you guys seen that, but
Yeah.
he had all
Oh,
that turkey
yeah. I
videos.
wanted.
That
Yeah.
was in his backyard.
I'm glad I wanted you
Same
to talk
thing.
about that. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. So if you guys are on Instagram, what is it? It's Reese Johnson 7. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If
Yep.
you're on Instagram, we'll definitely, because you shared it. That was a really cool story to follow along with. Let's kind of talk about some of your crazy stuff or some of the cool stuff that you've seen on camera. Because I'm sure with 150 out there, you've seen some stuff. But I definitely want to get into that turkey thing because that was really cool.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, it's usually I just see something that if you run across it and you're out in the woods, if it happens once, it's probably going to happen again. So, the barn buck was the original. I jumped a couple of good deer out of an old barn that was abandoned. Was growing up all around. They were bedding in it in the hot summer, and so I ran cameras in there for several years, and that one big deer was what made it. And then I had some deer. Bed underneath a camper, same thing. They're at our camp/cabin. There's a camper. They're bedding underneath it, so I put some cameras under there. I've had wood ducks, banded wood ducks. I put a log in there and set it up for them to stand on that log so you could see the bands. So I've got pictures of that.
That's awesome.
So like the other day, that I've got the white fawn now, which I've still got to go get some videos and pictures of it. I got to go pull those cameras. But my dad was driving down the road and saw an albino fawn with a doe. And so I knocked on the door, got permission. I said, look, I don't want to hunt. I just want to put out cameras. The guy was nice. He didn't care. So, within 3 or 4 days, I put out a little bit of corn too. Within 3 or 4 days, I had pictures and videos of the white fawn. So
that's awesome.
Just when you see something, you just got to take advantage of it. So, the turkey thing, it was, I'm where I live. I just live on 10 acres. It's not too far from. It's kind of between town and the country. It's kind of in between. It's nothing fancy, but I've got about. It's all pasture. It's all fence, but I've got a spot where I hunt my little kill plot. Same thing, whatever you want to call it down there.
Yeah.
And I typically mow a lap around the outside of the fence just to keep the fences down because I don't mow my pastures I mow them once a year just to keep the trees out. But I want it grown up for deer.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, I was down there and I'd flushed that hen, and I'm in a very low turkey density area. I've lived right here for the last 6 years. I just bought this house, but I moved a half a mile. I was basically bought my neighbor's house and moved down the street. So I've been very close to here. When I moved over here, all the deer from my starter house came with me. I was feeding the same deer, had pictures of the same deer from my old house to my new house. That's how close we were.
Yeah.
And so, but anyways, flushed her. I was very surprised. Walked over there. There was a bunch of eggs, so naturally didn't even hesitate. Finished mowing. I had about 2 passes to make. Ran up, went parked the mower, grabbed 4 cameras, and took off. So I had, I grabbed a couple of I didn't have anything to stick them on. I had created it. What I'd done is created a brush pile, and I'd left a hole in the center of it to put a pop-up blind in. So because that was where we hunted. Well, in that brush pile is where she nested, and so.
Nice.
So I didn't have any trees to hang the cameras on, so I grabbed a couple T-posts and stabbed them in the ground deep as I could and stomped on them. And one of them was a cell cam, and one was a regular camera on video. And then I had another one that I put in the nest with her. She basically incubated it for 30 days. And so then I started getting pictures of
awesome.
of coons at night.
Yep.
And the coons were fighting her off, and then I had to offer some assistance to her with the raccoons that were bothering her.
Yeah.
So, I was pretty stressed for like 30 days. I'm not gonna lie. She incubated. I knew what day she started sitting heavy, and I was sitting there watching. And then one afternoon on the phone, I'd actually lost communication with her. A coon grabbed hold of the cell cam and spun it around, and I'd lost communication. And it had been like 5 or 6 days. So I made it like 24, 25 days before the camera spun around and was facing the grass. And I was stepped on the back porch. I was talking on the phone, and I looked up and I saw her standing. I hadn't seen her in 2 or 3 weeks at this point, and I saw her standing over there next to the fence, working back and forth. So I knew she was essentially looking for those babies. But basically, she was waving goodbyes the way I took it, like, "Hey, thanks, see you later."
Yeah.
And then I ran down there about 30 minutes later, and they had all hatched, and I had videos of 8 of the 9 hatched. I had videos of the little ones and her, and she's gone.
That's freaking awesome.
But it was really, really neat, and
it was.
I've ended up.
Go ahead.
I ended up trapping here on this 10 acres. We did back during season, and you'd be amazed at how many course, I've got chickens too, so
Yep.
I've got keep them out on their behalf. But over 30 on 10 acres in 6-8 weeks, coons and possums.
That's all. Yeah. Yeah. I just
So
started.
I mean, if you can do your part, 5 acres, put a live trap in the
Yep.
backyard,
Yep.
whatever. I don't run any I run a few. I had a few dog proofs prior, but and I can't run. I actually do have a fair amount of coyotes come through the little food plot too, but I don't.
Yeah.
If I set a coyote trap, I'll catch my own dog. So I don't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. I have about 6 chickens now. I've kind of downgraded. When we first started, I had 13, and just kind of rehomed them based off need, and people are not really needing the eggs as very much anymore. But anyway, beside the point. But we had raccoons and possums, and then been starting to catch possums. And man, I'd go in there every night, and there'd be one like stuck inside the fence, and it's just like they're not getting after the birds, but they're still eating the feed, and the feed's not cheap, and it keeps going up every week. It seems like the feed gets more and more expensive, and so running those live traps. But I haven't had any luck with the raccoons on the live traps. They kind of outsmarted it a little bit, and they kind of knock it and set it off, or it's just a hair trigger with I think it's a Duke's trap that I got at the store. They keep setting off. So I need to get some dog-proof ones. My dog's never out there, so they'd be the only thing I'd catch. But yeah, if you gotta do your part, man. I know Joe Jackson, our archery tech here in the Columbus area. He's really heavy right now on doing what you can. Of course, there's a trapping season, so you can't be really out there doing anything right now unless they're a nuisance like what I got. But yeah, it's watching that story with those birds and watching her raise them, that was a really cool thing to follow along with. So I highly recommend going back to his feed and checking that out because it's pretty cool. I think you maybe just posted something here recently, or how
Realtree did an article on it, and they did a write-up on it, and they created a montage video, like 3-minute video of all the clips.
Oh, okay.
And so there's kind of a summary there if you can find it, of all the different videos of what she went through
That's
from
cool.
start to finish.
That's sweet.
It's really eye-opening, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yep. So
if
like I said, even if you can do it in your backyard, if that's as small as you can take, like I said, I'd never have trapped much before.
Yep.
And like I said, I mean, like I said, I wish I could get to the farms and actually do a good job out there, but you know how it is. Everybody's, it's time, and then you got to go out there every day, and everybody's got 1,000 other more important things to do. But if you can find a way, one here, one there, it makes a difference.
Oh, for sure. If you had to pick, what's your go-to? What brand camera are you going to the most?
So I'm not gonna stick to one. I'm gonna put them in categories.
Okay, that's perfect.
Cheap. You want cheap public land cam? Get a Tasco. You want a mid-range cell cam for the money? Get a Reveal.
Yep.
You want for video quality? I really like the Brownings on video mode. And then the high end, of course, will be the Exodus. If you're going to spend that money and have a render and do all that with the support and the warranty, that'd be my top tier. So those are essentially the four. I ran Moultries I've tried them all. But that would be kind of the four that I have now that I've kind of got my ways and my inventory. Those are the kind of ones I stick to.
Sweet. Cool.
Yeah, it's good. I know he runs a lot of them over scrapes. A lot, right?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not scared to leave them on there in June. Put them out in June on that scrape if that's what it takes. If it's public essentially, or if it's in a state where you can't bait like Illinois.
Yeah.
That's your option. I mean, that's your next best bet. So I'll try to. A lot of times, what I like to do is find pinches or funnels or something that causes more than one trail to intersect.
Yep.
And then use that topography, and then in that vicinity add a scrape, make the scrape. If you make it now, by the time season rolls around, they start using it, they'll assume it's been there and it's already in a hub area that you have found. So that's kind of one of my main strategies for getting better pictures.
Yeah, that was something I was going to ask you too. Just let me. I've kind of doing a lot of experimenting on my own property, and then that way I can take it other places. But I got where that buck that I showed you a picture of. There's like 2 or 3 trails coming into that one spot, and this is the first like low hanging branch. That's where they're hitting, or where we saw him again, where I set up the cell camera this year. 2 or 3 trails kind of intersect in my woods, And so that's where I see him a lot. And
Well,
so it's
Ben and I were talking about that earlier too. He tried the hang the vine.
Yep.
This season for the first time, like making that kind of a scrape.
I did it last year as well.
Okay.
Yeah, but it worked out great. The Jeff Sturgis, the water vine, just hanging on some paracord, right next to a trail, and set a camera on it. And 45 minutes later, I had does coming through, hitting it. I was just touching the vine.
Yeah.
I was blown away. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah, because you didn't put any scent or
No,
nothing.
I didn't. Nope. Just hung it up and hung the camera and left.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I think if you put it out early enough and you let it, it's like it's as much visual, and that's like a Troy Pottinger thing. He's the one that was all about that, making the rubs to using your saw to making the rub, making it, giving the effect for that big buck that's running that scrape, that there's another big buck that has come in there and come through and checked it, hit it, done all that. And you can get as crazy as you want to with it. Me personally, I don't get too wild. I kind of set the limbs up as I want, scrape it out, and then let it happen naturally, because there should be that enough deer in that area already that they should see it and they should naturally gravitate towards it. But if you want to add the things, like, I've done it in some of our farms where, in the middle of a food plot, I don't have a good place for a camera. I'll take my post hole diggers, cut down a cedar tree, stick that thing in the ground, and then do the jury style scrape limbs.
I was going to say, I do that a lot too. In the visual aspect, like you were talking about, that makes a big difference. You got a little food plot. It could be a little micro plot anyway, but you got a scrape tree right in the middle. They just see that.
Yeah.
It's just a natural thing. I don't even use a lot of scent really, or if any.
Yeah.
Just opening up that ground is enough.
Oh, for sure. And then the visual of it, definitely makes sense. Well, brother, we've been going on. It's been about hour and 10 minutes. We'll go ahead and let you get going. I know you are busy and got to show some boathouses in your Crocs today. So if you can, man, let's go ahead and let people know where they can find you. I know we obviously talked about you on Instagram and stuff. You want to go ahead and shout all those profiles out that you're on, buddy, and then we'll let you get out of here.
Yeah, it's Reese Johnson 7 on Instagram, Twitter, whatever. I've got a Facebook page. It's Reese Johnson Land, if you want to keep up with what I've got available there. But I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. If you got any questions or anything I can do, like I said, send me a message. I'll be happy to, whether it's land or deer or cameras or whatever, just any way I can help.
All right, brother. Well, appreciate it, man. Good luck with Alaska. We'll be about a week out when this episode airs, and hopefully you smack a big one, buddy.
Yep.
Well, we look forward to seeing you up here too. We definitely, you guys coming up here, we're going to need to make a point to get together and at least hang out and have a beer or something. So.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm already thinking about it. I'm counting on Taylor to pull through for me.
You'll be here. Don't worry about
Taylor's
that.
notorious for passing up on like 170s and 180s. So you maybe he'll have some for us.
That's fine. I'll shoot him.
I'm gonna do my best. Yeah, those corn springs, they do something.
Yeah,
so we'll see what happens.
Those fountains of youth in the yellow corn. All right, brother. Have a good day. Appreciate you making the time to come on, and we look forward to hanging out with you again.
Y'all take care.
All right, everyone, that is all we have for you today. We hope you enjoyed that conversation with Reese and, of course, our special guest, Taylor Honert. It was great to get the guys together and just have a chill conversation about all things hunting, and hopefully we'll be able to get together again when Reese comes up this fall. As always, we appreciate you listening. Please give us a rating and share this episode with a friend. And until next time, enjoy the pursuit.